Play at Novice.
Hello and a warm welcome to another edition of the Irish Angle, sponsored by Novibet. Now, as usual, I've Emma Nagle, Johnny Ward, both with me, and we've got a huge amount to catch up on from last week. Another really packed week full of incident and action and all sorts of different shenanigans going on. Emma, Johnny, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Vincent.
Thanks, Vinny.
Now, where do we start? Well, maybe start at the top. Fastorslow, what about that? John Durkin. We've a Gold Cup winner beaten for the second time by the same horse. Galloping Deschamps didn't produce his best, I suppose. What did you make of it, Emma? You were there yesterday.
Yeah, I suppose, big shock, Galloping Deschamps being overturned. Very, very short price favourite, of course. Look, I suppose just before we go on to the winner, I think Galloping Deschamps was probably just a bit flat. I know there's a lot of people saying that maybe it's the Gold Cup, but I wouldn't really be convinced of that either, to be honest. I don't think that's really the Gold Cup showing much of an effect. Like, in fairness, like when you look at Brave Man's Game maybe on Saturday and then Galloping Deschamps, I think even though they were both beat, kind of maybe surprisingly, they both kind of ran different races as well. Like Galloping Deschamps, in fairness to him, he fought on at the end and he was trying to bridge the gap, whereas I think Brave Man's Game had no interest once he came off the bridle. Like, I don't know, is it just like a few of Willies aren't fully firing? Maybe that's it. But like, you have to give all credit to Fastorslow as well at the same time. Like, he's rapidly improving. Like, he ran in this race last year as a 66-1 outsider, beaten anything over 20 lengths, I suppose. But I think that was his first chase start in Ireland as well. Like, he's a horse, I think Martin Brazel probably used last season as maybe to an introduction for him into the kind of chasing scene here. And yeah, he's a real player in the Gold Cup now, I think. Got a brilliant ride from JJ Slevin. Like, he dropped his stick, but like, in fairness, the horse just kept giving in the finish. Appreciated as well, ran a massive race. I thought when he kicked after the second last that there was no one going to catch him, but yeah, it was a very exciting race, and I don't think the favourite being beat took away from it for me, to be honest. I probably wouldn't be as pessimistic about him as maybe others seem to be online anyway. At least I think he still showed a bit of a battling attitude in the finish, even though he was beaten. He was just a bit flat, I think.
And what about that, Johnny, the winner? 9-1. How in God's name was the horse 9-1? It's hard when you look back at these every weekend, every Monday we're on this, and I'm looking back at something that won last weekend saying, oh my God, how do we miss that? 9-1, incredible price, wasn't it, considering what we'd seen back in April?
Yeah, like I tipped him up at Cheltenham and tipped him up at Punchestown. But to be honest now, I didn't expect him to beat Galloping Deschamps on Sunday. I thought Galloping Deschamps would be back to his best. I didn't think he was at his best at Punchestown last year. Like, this is the horse that Martin Brazel was basically saying kind of at the start of last season, like he couldn't really place him because of sort of the lack of I suppose races afforded to him because of his chase form in France, and the way he's trained him, it's really masterful stuff. Like the way he's improved, like he really ran into one in Corrick Rambler at Cheltenham. He travelled absolutely brilliantly on the day, and it was kind of one of these moments when you appreciate this kind of small trainer in Ireland, how good he is at his job, because he trained him to perform to such a high level in defeat, albeit, and then he goes to Punchestown. Why not give it a shot? I thought Galloping Deschamps was a little bit under his best on the day, but he actually looks like he's improving. Like he was dropping back in trip obviously for the race and travelled really well. I thought he won pretty snugly despite the dropping of the whip, and it's just brilliant for racing. I was at Mallow yesterday, and like the people who were watching it on the screen beside me, like you could genuinely feel that they wanted the underdog to win, because people, I don't think absolute dominance by one or two people in racing is a good thing. And Martin Brazel, who's a guy who doesn't court publicity, doesn't really court owners, only has 20-25 in training, that he has a Gold Cup contender now with JJ Slevin, who's kind of a run-of-the-mill rider in the overall scheme of things in terms of the rides that he gets. Riding him is just brilliant, and I think it's great for racing.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I thought it was fantastic. I think Martin Brazel, he's a master of his craft. There's no doubt about it. You look at what he's done down the years. He just keeps producing them on the big day as well. That's what I love, when they get one right for the big day. As few of them can do it, but he's one of them. Having said that, Willie Mullins is another one, so I wouldn't be ruling out anything with Galloping Deschamps, Appreciated, Blue Lord. I think they'll all be fighting for big races come March. Looking at the other one then on the previous day, with the Morgiana State Man. Emma, is that a contender for the champion hurdle, like against Constitution Hill? We know he's a contender, but can he possibly beat Constitution Hill, as he shortened up in a lot of the anti-post markets? For me, he did nothing I wouldn't have expected him to do. What did you make of it?
I know. I don't think he can beat Constitution Hill now unless Constitution seems to underperform for whatever reason. Like it was interesting. Paul Townend was kind of, I don't know, was it quotes from last week or the week before where he was saying that Stateman wasn't at his best at Cheltenham, but I think even at his best, he's not going to get a whole pile closer unless things change this year. Now horses have to come back. We haven't seen Constitution Hill yet, I suppose. So bit of a question there, maybe, I suppose. But like Stateman's brilliant horse. Like he's just very, very unlucky to be in the same generation as Constitution Hill. He's nearly so good he's boring. Like he does everything so easy. He's not flashy. He just puts his head down and gallops. He jumps the last and he just kicks away from them. I really, really like him. Like he's a brilliant, like for anyone to have a horse like him, like he'll mop up all the Grade 1 hurdles in Ireland anyway. I'd say Paul Townend will be trying to manage him in Imperial Pass now to try and stay on Stateman. I can't imagine him, like, unless Imperial Pass comes out and shows some kind of performance that he's some kind of a machine over 2 miles over hurdles. I can't see him jumping ship from Stateman because he's just so reliable. Like he'll be bang. He'll probably be second in the champion hurdle again and win all of the big Grade 1 hurdles here, you'd imagine.
He's a bit like his rider, isn't he? Very reliable. You know what he's going to do. He's going to give you the performance every time. That's what you want, isn't it? But I agree with you. I can't see him beating Constitution Hill. Anyway, look, there's another incident here in this race that's worth having a chat about. Sam Ewing, he picked up 5 days here for breaking a rule called Rule 226, where he made a maneuver during the race with the apparent intention of advancing another runner trained by the same trainer. So he was trying to give an advantage to another runner. He rode Phil Dudares for Gordon Elliott, and Gordon Elliott also had a more fancied runner, Pied Piper, with Jack Kennedy on it. He gets 5 days for that. Johnny, what do you make of this? Because as far as I know, that's the first time that rule has been invoked. They've had a rule, but they never bring it in. It happens a lot, doesn't it? Race riding, team riding, within some of these stables in the bigger races. We see it a huge amount in the flat down the years with Ballydoyle, where you often have a pacemaker and it moves out as it turns into the straight, and the more fancied one comes up the inside and goes on and wins. Can you see this being a problem going forward for jump racing with the 2 main stables having so many horses and often multiple runners in each race? Like, you only look at last week, we had Gordon Elliott, 15 declared for a Troytown Chase. If he wanted, he could have had 14 of them in a line across the track, blocking off everybody else, that kind of thing. Is that an issue for us?
I don't think it's really an issue. Like, to be honest, when I was watching the race, it wouldn't really have come to my attention. Like, I was actually texting Warren Ewing on Saturday when Sam rode Ida's Boy. I thought he was absolutely brilliant on the horse. And Sam has had, like, for his young career, he's had a fair few injuries. And I think he's kind of gone a little bit unheralded because of the fact that he's come off the flat jump racing, and there's just so many good jump jockeys around. But I thought, like, I just watched Ida's Boy Saturday. I thought he got some tune out of a horse in terms of jumping and all that, and he hasn't ridden that many times over fences in a young career. This to be honest, like, it wasn't something that was immediately apparent to me through the race, but I would laud the IHRB for doing stuff like this if it sees fit on the day, because I think we can, like, without necessarily mentioning particular jockeys, we can certainly think of instances in our head where powerful flat operations have basically run horses to suit others in the race, and that's been, like, that's a commercial imperative, and they're maybe running to ensure a good pace and all of that, but it's fairly transparent in the race what's going on. So I would certainly hope that the IHRB would translate this to powerful flat yards in the future.
But could it also be a big issue for powerful jump yards going forward? Just with the sense that we're seeing such dominance with such a few, most of the horses are in 4 yards currently in the jumping game at this moment in time, mainly in 2, Willie Mullins, Gordon Elliott. They tend to run multiple horses in most races, that if it started to become a case that there was going to be team tactics used, it'd be very difficult for everybody else, wouldn't it?
Well, it would, but, like, I don't really see that as the case. Like, ultimately, when you're running horses, the best horse will invariably win. And if you're running 3 horses in a race, you have a fair idea which is the best of the 3. And you tell your jockey, if you're running these races, like, this is the thing about Jigginstown and Gordon and having all these horses in the Troytown, you're pretty certain that they're all running honestly, and that's one thing you'd say about the operation. And, like, if you're running horses for an owner in a Grade 1, I would hope that the horse is running on its merits, and, like, I don't really see it as a big issue going forward, but I do laud the Turf Club for looking into it.
Yeah, same. I think it's good they're looking into it. It's a pity they haven't looked into it before, but maybe they'll start to do it more often going forward. But I suppose it's a shot across the bows as well of the main yard, saying, look, hang on a minute here now. we know we have an issue with your dominance in the game, but you've got to keep this straight, and that's what I would feel anyway. And as you said, they're talking about Gigginstown. I don't care if they ran 10,000 in a race. I have no problem with that because they always run on their merits, which is fantastic. Not the same for every other owner, every other trainer's horses. It doesn't often happen that way, but Gigginstown have always run it straight, which is terrific from a punting point of view, which is the perspective I always take looking at these things. So I don't think there is a major issue, but just you could see how it could be, or perceived as one, I suppose, going forward. Anyway, let's go back to more of the race in the weekend. Anyone who did an anti-post Acume on Shishkin, Florin Porter, Tully Hill, Brave Man's Game, you're in a bit of bother, aren't you? I don't know where you come back from some of them. Emma, what did you make of it? Like, first of all, Shannon Royale beating Tully Hill 24 lengths. You couldn't have dreamed that one up, could you?
Yeah, he was never really going like but from where I was watching now, I haven't watched the replay, but just watching it live, like he was kind of under pressure for a while. He looked as maybe a small bit keen jumping off and just like flat again. Like a few maybe Woodies have been like, I know he's had some very good winners as well in the last few weeks, but maybe they're not all just firing like as they probably will be later on in the season. Yeah, but he was just very, very disappointing. 1 to 9, like it doesn't happen too often, but like Gordon's horse is flying. He probably wasn't the biggest upset of the weekend though. At the same time, like Shishkin not jumping off would probably be like a headline news story in any other weekend, but it's kind of just being thrown to the side now because there's so much else to talk about. But yeah, Tully Hill, very disappointing. Like you'd imagine he can do a lot better than that. Like just on his champion bumper second last year. They probably won't be too happy with him, I'd say.
And Johnny, what about Florin Porter? Is he going to make a chaser, like a Grade 1 chaser?
Well, not going that way anyway, Vinny. I think, in fairness, when I was watching these first couple of jumps, I thought actually this is kind of going to work out. But then I suppose, as often happens with these races, when when the gun is put to the head, he started kind of going out the one way. And I think Gavin Cromwell said after the race that we're not going to go that way again. But like that was a strong contest, to be fair. Like we've so much to get through in terms of race this weekend. Like I actually think the thing about Shishkin for me was that, like I was saying before the race, I've gone past the point of knowing whether to oppose or back this horse. I can't predict him on the day. And I would like to make a comment on the hysterical reaction from punters online that bookmakers weren't giving the money back on Shishkin. If you backed that horse in the day, you didn't deserve anything than lose your bet, because this is a horse that has shown traits of this in the past. And if you're a bookmaker and you laid Shishkin, you also laid 3 other horses in the race. That's how bookmaking works. And take it or leave it. Like if you back the horse and he plants himself at the start, that's how it works. And like, we criticize bookmakers for this and that, but like it was pointed out to me by loads of people, this absolutely hysterical reaction by punters giving out to bookmakers if they didn't give their money back if you back Shishkin. If you back Shishkin, take it or leave it, you lost your bet as far as I'm concerned. And if I laid him on Betfair, that's exactly what I'd expect.
I agree with you 100%. Yeah, you have to take it on the chin, those ones. It's very frustrating when you see it at the same time, but look, there you go. Let's look at some more of the action from the UK with the Betfair Chase with Royal Piguy beating Brave Man's Game. Corrick Rambler. That I thought Corrick Rambler was better than we've seen in the 2 runs this season. I had thought Corrick Rambler was potentially a Gold Cup horse this year. Not looking like it now, Em, is it?
God no, he's been very disappointing. Kind of like maybe we've forgotten. Like I think before Tiger Roll came around, like the Grand National winners used to go on and do nothing. Maybe he might fall into that trend again. He's been very, very disappointing. Like you were saying, a lot of people were kind of talking of him as maybe a potential Gold Cup horse. I can't imagine him even running in the Gold Cup now. Like maybe they might go for the cross country or something like that with him instead. Yeah, just very disappointing. But yeah, the Betfair Chase, Brave Man's Game. Like I don't know what to make of him. Like I think he just, like maybe last year there was maybe hints that maybe he was a bridle horse, but this year he looked really, really like a bridle horse. Like he just, unlike Galopin Des Champs maybe who battled, in fairness, when he came off. Brave Man Game just seemed to throw in the towel completely when he came off the bridle. I was surprised they were running him there. Maybe like Cobden not going to ride him as well was a big off-putting factor. Like so, you'd have a lot of questions about him now. I presume King George next. Like he'd want to be an awful lot better there. If he's going to have any kind of a shout in a Gold Cup picture this year, but I wouldn't fancy him now.
Geez, at the same time, like Vinny's blog today, Emma, like it was 112 grand for the winner, 42.5 grand for coming second. So you could kind of see why they were running him, I think.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
fair
it
enough,
is.
I
It's
suppose.
yeah. The prize money in the UK last weekend was astonishing, wasn't it, compared to the Irish? I literally couldn't believe it when I started looking at it, that you had that Haydock meeting. The prize money there was more than both days at Punchestown, which is hard to believe. Like you have this perception in your head, I think, from what we're always being told about poor prize money in the UK, and you think it's across the board, but it's not. It's the minor stuff on Mondays, Tuesdays, all weather stuff, and that they're racing for a pittance. But those big weekend meetings, my God, the money is astonishing in it. And same, even Irish.
It's relative as well, Vinny. Like I mean, like I brought this up in the podcast where you have like these like 25 runner flat handicaps in Navan, like really competitive, and it's like $5,000 for the winner. Like, so if you win the $5,000 there to win a 25 runner 0 to 60 in Navan on the flat, say if it's over a mile and 4, a mile and 6, you've all these well handicapped horses, well handicapped jumps horses, you win your $5,000, then you give like whatever a third, even more of that in terms of cost, jockeys, trainers. So the relative prize money issue isn't as big as we make it out, because it's so much easier to win a similar race in Britain.
Yeah, as far as I know, just you might pick me up on this if I'm wrong. I think a trainer gets 10%. Does he? A jockey gets 10% of the prize money here. Is that right?
I think it's 12 and a half each.
12 and a
About
half.
that, yeah.
Yeah. I see in Australia there, I was looking at that with the Melbourne Cup and other things, 5% they get each out there. Some difference, isn't it?
I actually think it's high because, like as an owner, when you're involved in a horse trying to pay the bills, like it's very difficult. And jockeys and trainers, particularly jockeys, don't do badly at all out of this game. Like in my view, particularly jockeys that get like regular rides, which are most jockeys. So when you're involved in a horse and you realise the incentives, if it's laid out to you in cold terms, these are the incentives of getting involved. If he or she is lucky enough to win a race, you're decimated, like absolutely decimated. You're probably even encouraged to give a few quid, like to the fella or the last looking after the horse as well. Like, so in my mind, it actually is a bit high, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, well, just you think of anything else in life, like, where you pay someone to do a job for you, either to train your horse, ride your horse, you've paid them the money. Good luck. That's it, isn't it? You don't go down to Tesco's and buy your shopping and then hand 10% extra to the person on the till or
You
whatever
get
else it may
10%
be in
off.
life. Well, there you go, 10% off. You got your little card, yeah. But yeah, you know what I mean. Like it is very odd, isn't it, to see any job or anything that someone does, and if you do it well, you're getting these bonuses every time. Whatever about, at the end of the year, maybe the industry throws them a few quid. You did great, but I don't know. It is an odd one, but anyway, something to do with me, I suppose. Moving on then, the other one at Haydock. This is the big one, I suppose, prize money wise as well. Slate Lane winning the big handicap hurdle for Emmett Mullins and Paul Byrne. And then you have Fine Margin finishing second in the same race, like £125,000 sterling race. What do you make of that, Emma? Some piece of placing. That's the first thing. From you can't fault Emmett Mullins for what he's doing. He picks up a horse, or a horse comes into his yard with his owner, Paul Byrne, and he goes bang, 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 bang. 5 wins in a row, including the charity race. The horse has been backed every day it's run as well, which is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, it's some going to win 5 races in a row. I know one is a charity race, but they punted it that day as well. And like the 2 Irish horses, I think me and Johnny were talking about this on the Friday, tipping one, like kind of guessing what they were going to do, and they were well clear of the field. And I thought Fine Margin was even a more interesting one than Slate Lane, to be honest, because it's just not the kind of horse that Willie Mullins would normally pick up. Like, he was rated about 115, bought it from, I think Matthew Daly was the name of the trainer, after having a few kind of okay ones. Like, Patrick and Danny had both ridden it now, so maybe they thought there was big improvement in it or something. But it's not the kind of profile of horse you'd normally see the likes of Willie Mullins picking up. He doesn't normally have those kind of maybe slightly lower rated handicap hurdlers in particular. So he's a horse who I think is very, very interesting going forward as well. I saw Patrick getting interviewed before the race, and they kind of said they were going over to pick up prize money, basically, which worked out well, and you highlighted that in your blog as well. But and he should come on for the run as well. So, like, how much improvement they can get out of him is interesting. Like, I think whenever you see a horse going to Willie, like maybe with a lower profile from a smaller yard, you kind of have to take note of it, because they probably think they can do an awful lot better with it than maybe the previous yard was doing. So he's him and Slate Lane, both very, very interesting horses. Maybe Slate Lane might have a lot of his winning done by now, but I'd say Fine Margin could go on and win a few nice pots for Willie, I'd say.
And Vinny, like, how does this horse go off 22-1? Like, you think you vaguely know the game. He's trained by a fella, Matthew Daly, who he might be a decent trainer. He's only had like a handful of runners, but like most people have never heard of him. He switches to Willie Mullins. He's running off 124 in a British handicap with 15 runners, and he goes off 22-1. You're thinking this horse must be absolutely useless. And then 2 out, he comes there cantering, and you're like, how could the market get this so wrong? And then, like, yesterday, you have a horse like that Patrick owned, who was running the last race in Limerick, who went from give or take 8-1 into even money, who's also sourced from another yard, owned by Patrick, trained by Willie, absolutely bolts up. And you're just like, the longer I'm in this game, the less I can figure it out. Like,
yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? But that just looking at that race in Haydock, the two Irish horses in it, they finished first and second. As someone said, like, look, it's not rocket science. You can see the Irish horses tend to dominate when they go to the UK anyway. We seem to have a better level of horse in National Hunt at this stage. I think the forecast paid over 80 quid there, the two of them. It's unbelievable when you think about it. Like, what? I don't know what I'd be doing. Anyway, need to scratch my head about some of these. Look, we'll go through the rest of the week. There's loads more happened during the week. We had Friday in Fairyhouse, a few decent horses running there in novice races. You'd Better Days Ahead, which finally made up for what had happened in the north the last day. That bolted in at short odds. And Mr. Policeman. Emma, what did you make of that? You were down with Willie Mullins at a stable tour a few weeks ago, and he seemed to be very keen on Mr. Policeman. Wasn't a great performance, was it? Right, he wins in the end, but he looked like his stablemate had him halfway up the running.
Yeah, I mean, like if you hadn't heard all the hype about him, you probably would say, oh, he looks like a nice horse. But kind of the talk was like he could be a proper contender for the Arkle, and that he was like some kind of a flying machine. So like you'd imagine he's showing an awful lot at home, and just the fact that he doesn't show probably as much on the race course might be a little bit worrying, because for them to be kind of being so confident in him, like he must be absolutely working the house down. And he probably isn't showing that on the track anyway so far. Like in fairness, he battled away and he got up, but like he beat his stablemate who's no superstar, and like he's only ever hurdle run down in Cork. Like he beat Cashback, who's a good horse, but like I think he was running 8-1 for the Arkle before the race. I'm not sure has he drifted out after it, but probably not living up to the hype yet. Anyway, like it's kind of hard to write him off maybe this early, but like I think Willie has introduced some much more exciting beginners chasers during the week than him. So, yeah, I wouldn't be buying into the hype so far anyway.
Yeah. Is it a worry if he's the best he's got that maybe the others aren't great? I don't know. Like, it just, are we at that level yet? Maybe it's too early with the Galloping Day Champs and everything else we're seeing. Like that, I'm sure Willie's, for whatever the reason, they're not firing exactly 100% at the minute, but that's the way he trains them, isn't it? He gets them ready for the big days. That's what the man does. So you'll see Leopardstown Christmas, you'll see the Dublin Racing Festival, Cheltenham and Punchestown, and he'll have them absolutely primed for each of them, I presume, because that's what we've seen every year for the last 10, 15 years, so nothing different, I presume, there. Anyway, the other one, we go back another day to Thursday in Thurles, Johnny. Classical Dream. Fair horse, Classical Dream. I've always liked Classical Dream. Gone to chasing a bit late in life, do you think? 9 years of age, is it?
Yeah, well, obviously, 14 won a grade 1 at 12, so like I do like the fact that Willie isn't kind of worried about that aspect of it. I suppose Florian Porter has gone chasing late in his life as well. Classical Dream is a quirky horse, but I mean, I don't think I've ever discussed Willie Mullins being in a lower run of form, and I actually don't think he's in a lower run of form. Classical Dream was brilliant. He's obviously 9 going on 10, but like he's a fascinating addition to that division. But in that division, like I have to say, the performance of Gaelic Warrior for me was off the charts. Like for a horse that is basically a 3-miler running over 2-2, halfway through the race to be about 20 lengths clear. I mean, if you're an in-running punter, I wasn't watching it, but like he must have been trading about a tenth of his price after half a mile. He was going that well and jumping that well. I thought it was an astonishing performance, to be honest. And like that whole 3-mile division, don't like rule out Florian Porter from it as well. Once he goes left-handed, it's really, really high class this season in the novice ranks.
Yeah, and we're talking about Willie Mullins having a poor run. We're talking about horses that are actually winning races. They're just not winning as impressively as we'd like them in some cases. It's just crazy, isn't it? But that's the level he's at, I suppose. Look, moving away from the race, well, the direct racing here a little bit, we had a couple of other things. Japan Cup, Equinox. They say it's the best horse in the world. Is it, Em? What do you think?
Yeah, I didn't watch it live now. I think it was about 6 a.m. on Sunday morning, so I was probably in a different world at that stage. But I watched it in the morning.
Equinox.
Like, Yeah. He looks like a horse. He looks like something out of a movie. But he just kind of starts picking up, and it's like he's kind of just going. He's just joining into a race in the last furlong or something. He flies past him. I was kind of saying before, like I'd like to see maybe continue, like if Continuous ran, just to kind of judge him off him. Like if he beat Continuous by 10 lengths, you'd say wow. But like I don't think you would need to be honest, because I'm sure there's very good horses over in Japan. I don't know a whole pile about them, but he's very cool to watch. He's just very eye catching, and yeah, I think he's a 4-year-old, so I don't know, will they retire him? Be cool to see him come over the Arc or something like that. It would be just nice to see him race against European horses at some stage, just to see what he can do to them as well.
Him against Constitution Hill over whatever, mile and a half with a couple of hurdles thrown in, it'd be fantastic, wouldn't it? Yeah, that's the one. You need someone with a few quid here. Sort this one out for us. I'd love to see how good he is, because I've no idea. He looks awesome when you see a race like that. He really did look the real deal. They're telling us already he's the real deal. What do you make of it, Johnny? You're a big international racing fan.
Well, I'd say he's the first horse that was sent off like 130 on 3 times in succession, and I have to say, Vinny, I don't watch racing to the level that I would know what's going on in Japan, but like when you see a horse like this, you're like, well, what's his breeding like? What's he going to do? And the stallion, Kitasan Black, his first foals, looking at the race and post today, were 2019, so this is his first crop. Basically, he's a 4-year-old, give or take, anyway. So like, that sire must be some he must be some value at the moment. But like a horse like this, as much as he's raced 9 times, you're wondering like we have kind of Frankel as kind of the domineering sire in this part of the world, but like Coolmore must be looking, because Coolmore had like brief dalliances with Deep Impact and would probably have preferred an awful lot more. Coolmore must be wondering, how do we get in on this? Because like the Coolmore in terms of the sire rankings in Europe now, with the kind of, I suppose, the death of Galileo are sort of down the list. They're desperately looking for the big stallion. It's very interesting to see that Auguste Rodin stays in training as well, that he's not retired for whatever reason. And they must be looking at this fella and thinking, how do we get in on this in some shape or form and get all these Galileo bred mares over to this complete outcross over there, be it with his sire or with him himself. And I think this story is probably waiting to be told.
Well, here's one now for you, just a hypothetical one. Let's say Equinox is retired to stud, right? And they decide to put him into a sale. How much would he go for? We're seeing Goffs here last week, right? 2 very good mares in foal go for 6 million each, Alpine Star and Alpha Centuria. From you're looking at that money. That's massive money. Coolmore have paid there for a couple of mares, right? They're equal records for sales in Ireland. But what would Equinox go for if he turned up in Tattersalls or Goffs? What would you be talking about, Johnny?
I wouldn't be able to afford it anyway, to be honest. Jesus, Vinny, like,
are we talking 100 million? Are we talking 200 million? What sort of figures are? Is it $1 billion? I've no idea.
Was the figure for Auguste Rodin? There was a rumor that Japan offered 60 million for him, I think. So
yeah, well, if he's worth that, this fella's worth a lot more.
Yeah, got to be worth huge money, doesn't he? Crazy money. Yeah. Anyway, look, we've more or less gone through the week. I'm sure there's a few things we've left out. Someone is banging their computer screen or phone screen saying, you never mentioned such and such. But anyway, we'll move on. A horse to watch from last week. Emma, you were in Punchestown for starters. Was it one from there, or did you find something else earlier in the week?
No, it won't be one from Punchestown. Let me just get the name because it's kind of hard to pronounce. It was an Emmett Mullins bumper winner, I thought. Jobin Mashan, I think is how you pronounce it, won the bumper in Ferryhouse on Friday anyway. Beat kind of what was a big talking horse from the Point to Points, DB Cooper. But I thought he was very, very, very impressive. Did it really easy in the Paul Byrne colours as well. It could be another kind of star for him. And Emmett's comments after were pretty, like you kind of listened to him as well. Like he was saying, there's kind of no horse in the air that this fella can't work with, and he doesn't show a lot at home, but he said he could be a very good horse. I think he's going to go over hurdles now. So probably in a maiden hurdle around Christmas time, I'd say that he'd be fairly hard to beat.
Very good, yeah. Johnny, have you one for us?
Yeah, I think that horse might have had a small setback, but I'd wait for an update on him. I know the horse, like, this is I'd be friendly with Paul Byrne, and like the horse that won the big race in Haydock basically did a leg afterwards. So it's like he's had unbelievably up and down kind of runs as an owner, obviously with it's only a matter of time running out at Cheltenham, all that. And yeah, I think Slate Lane actually is probably not going to run again after. And I think there was a little bit of a worry about the bumper horse after Friday. So that might be just a small concern to check out. I'm going to give I was kind of torn between giving Gaelic Warrior, who I thought was like absolutely sensational in his beginner's chase. But just because I was there, I'll give a horse at Cork, and there was probably a lot of chat before the racing about Halka de Tarber. She'd obviously finished third at Cheltenham in the Mayor's Novice race, and they were expecting her to go better over fences. And I interviewed Jordan Gainford after he rode a winner in the first, and you could kind of get this vibe off him that he was really looking forward to riding her. She won by 20 lengths, like first time out over fences. It was a good race as well. Like I know the second favourite, trained by Willie, kind of fell into a hole, but I think that was night and day. But I think it was kind of nearly a reflection of how good Halka Tabard was. And I think it was the fourth last Jordan Gainford asked her for one. It was brilliant to watch. Like she's so natural at her fences, runs in the colours of honeysuckle. I remember saying to Henry de Bromhead years ago, you got to send honeysuckle over fences. But anyway, they've sent her over fences, and like I can't wait to watch her next. I thought she was absolutely brilliant.
Great stuff. I'll give you one as well. Crambo. Fergal O'Brien finished third to the two Irish horses we've mentioned in that handicap hurdle in Haydock at the weekend. My God, he was doing double speed coming to the line. Got stuck out too far out of his ground, I think, at the back. Got in a bit of bother trying to get a path through, but flew home. That will win races coming up. Big handicap hurdle. Like you're talking about two probably very well handicapped Irish horses, and he might have beat them with a better run. He'd be that over in England, you would think, at this stage. So I think he'll win. He was also giving almost a stone to those two horses. He gave more than a stone to the Willie Mullins trained horse that finished second, and almost a stone to Slate Lane. So that's one for me. I think he'll be winning. Watch him over Christmas, I would imagine, and maybe even Cheltenham. Right, look, thanks for everything, guys. Loads of great contributions there. I'm sure everyone enjoyed watching it. I certainly enjoyed taking part in it. And if you want to see more from us, subscribe to the channel. Em will be back Friday. Or actually, I think I'm actually back Friday. I'm sitting in for you on Friday. I'm in the Form Scan show. Now that I come to think of it, I better remember that. I'm touring up because you're going away for the weekend. Emma, anywhere nice?
Going to Edinburgh to the Christmas market, so I'll probably be frozen over there while you're sitting.
That's a nice show.
Yeah.
Hopefully won't.
Yeah,
so if anyone watching from Edinburgh, now make sure to look out for Emma. She'll be there probably Friday, Saturday, Sunday, is it? You're getting 3 days worth of it, are you?
Thursday to Sunday, so getting the most of it.
Sure, Jakers. Yeah, you're practically living in Scotland now at this rate. Yeah, they're fantastic. Look, and if you are having bets on any of these horses, do gamble responsibly, and we shall see you all again next week. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.